Sagittarius, welcome to your weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for November 21st to the 27th of 2016. I'm Athen, and this channel is about using the actual constellations in the sky, known as Sidereal Astrology. If you are new to the channel, be sure to check out the link down below because the signs are different, which means your sign might be different, and you'll want to watch this for the right sign. All right, Sagittarius, so this week we have a lot of things happening, as it has been a very impactful October and November. For you, though, it's more on the receptive side of things. Involving your 12th house and your first house, in fact, but we'll talk about that next. But you got your sun shifting into your 12th right at the beginning of the week on Monday. So this is really putting the emphasis on the fact that this is the time of year that's really good for you to be reflecting on things or getting your alone time, understanding more about yourself psychologically and spiritually. And it's already been such an important time for you to do that because you've had Saturn in your 12th, really emphasizing the fact that this is the time, these surrounding years, for you to really take this stuff seriously. Maybe it's your psychology, maybe it's facing some fears, maybe it's seeing what's preventing you from having more acceptance in your life and being and peace and tranquility and taking the actual steps, which is Saturn, to make sure that this is solidified, this is grounded. And that's why it makes it such a great time for spiritual activities or psychological activities, maybe seeing a counselor, or reading up on, psychology, things like this. Maybe it's involving, maybe some of this, deeper stuff is involving your career, in fact, and how you can bring it into that also. But whatever it is, taking this time to, especially with the Sun and Mercury now here this time of the year, to get some of that alone time. Maybe it's some rest and relaxation. And again, just connecting to your beingness and having really more acceptance in your life. And as a result, you're going to find over the coming years, especially after Saturn does this thing in your 12th, you do have more peace and tranquility as a result of all this acceptance. But it's certainly a great time for that with these aspects. In fact, Mercury is going to be conjoining up to Saturn here at the beginning of the week, right after that transition, specifically here around Wednesday, which does suggest a new chapter with all this, all right, of taking that patient and persistent approach to these spiritual things in life. What I just call spiritual, but it's more fundamental. There's no real words to describe it as much as it's being and connecting to God or connecting to universe, however your philosophy sees that. But it's about finding that peace within and with life. So this is also involving a couple other key areas, this conjunction. Mercury does rule your 7th house, so it is a time of, again, this sort of acceptance about relationships, unconditionality in relationships, and also involving your career. Although you do have a lot of positive things with your career, which we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes, Mercury in the 12th does suggest that it's a good time to maybe work a bit behind the scenes, maybe have a bit more of this, questioning if, your career right now does have this peace and tranquility, or how can the career be more in alignment with your soul? And these are really good questions to sort of ask or to meditate on. And as a result, I think you'll find that, yes, it's a great time to build this because Mercury conjoining Saturn means that this is a new chapter with your relationships. It's a new chapter with your career. And it's all about how to have it, let's just say both of them, more in alignment with your soul, where they can both have that unconditionality, that acceptance, that presence that can be truly rewarding. And it's not the type of rewarding which we immediately think of, but this is about fulfilling on a soul level, all right? And what I consider true happiness, which is the 12th house, once we've liberated ourselves spiritually and we can be. So that's the conjunction there, but in either case, on a most fundamental level, great for patience, discipline with relationships right now. Again, seeing the long term, there can be some positive things with that, and patience and discipline with the career. Could be some positive things with that as well. So Mercury is going to be sextiling up to Jupiter, who's in your 10th, this early part of the week as well, around Tuesday. So yes, there is opportunities, there is potentials, or at the very least, a bit of inspiration for you to be cultivating your career or productive life at the moment. Okay, and you could find maybe a bit of flow with that this first half, maybe even a bit of flow with those relationships as well, since Mercury does rule the 7th. All right, it's just an opening, but there is some nice support there with those key areas. Maybe it's just easier Tuesday to, maybe you're just feeling a bit more receptive and a bit more easygoing as a result. All right, so then, yeah, Wednesday is the good time to see the long road, patience with relationships, career, and again, all the spiritual activity. And then the most important thing this week, which is especially important for you, is that your ruler Jupiter squares up to Pluto. Now, it's going to go exact on Thursday, but it's all week long. And this is the fact that it's a deep time of change. And it may be uncomfortable change because it is a square, but it's usually change we know we need to make in order to have more fulfillment in our life, or really just to let go of any fears and inhibitions that have been preventing us from making the change that we want to see. In fact, that's the best way of working with this. This week, it's just so good for you Sagittarians and also Pisces out there. If you have, ascendant or moon or sun in Pisces, there's this challenge to really dive deep within yourself, see if there are any fears, being aware of them, accepting them. And once you've accepted them, they no longer have control over you, right? Once they no longer have control over you, then you're free to make the changes, and you actually can see the changes that maybe you need to make, that maybe you didn't see before because of the perspective you had, and the fears were dominating, in that sense, through the subconscious. It's very deep with Pluto. So it could be uncomfortable, but it could also just be that you're just initiating those steps. And I think that's just so uncomfortable. It's just such a good week for initiating change, internal and external. And again, it might have to do with the career, might even have to do with your home, family, and health. Could very well be. Jupiter does also rule your 4th house. So have you been feeling like making some changes with that? But fundamentally, it's with you. It's your ruler. Okay, so changes maybe with independence in your life, maybe to cultivate your personal needs, your aspirations, these types of matters. All right, so continuing with all of this change is that Venus, who's in your 1st house, is going over Pluto directly after that on Friday. So with Venus in your 1st house, first of all, it's been a really good time, I think, for sprucing up the self-image, maybe connecting with relationships, also maybe getting your routine in order, or things that have been more emphasized at work, maybe with friends, or those types of community things. But whatever it's been, it's a good time to now change perspective. And what I mean by that is, again, facing the fears and making the changes that not only do you feel like you need to make with you, but maybe with that routine, maybe with the network circles or something like that. Okay, but this is a neutral aspect. This is a conjunction. Okay, so it's not like the square. This particular side to it is very neutral in nature. But again, the more willing you are to dive deep, just in general, and that's really just the simplest way of looking at this week, is it's involving a lot of different areas. But as you make those changes, I think you're going to see positive results with the career, with yourself, with the home, family, and health, with the perhaps relationships, but I think probably more fundamentally your work life, your routine, and your self-improvement, and also anything else that's group or community-based that you might be a part of, okay? And it's just such a good week for initiating that change. All right, so that's the conjunction with Venus, and then as we get into the weekend, Mercury does square up to Chiron and trines up to Uranus. So there is this healing, and it's very freeing, in fact, I feel like, going into the weekend, particularly with whatever it is that you've started this week, or whatever is continuing to move forward for you this week. It's something new and different, or maybe you have some new ideas over the weekend to mix some things up, maybe make some changes. But again, this is more of the freer type of changes in a harmony with Uranus. And it could even be with your emotional body, maybe feeling quite emotionally free over the weekend. Does make it a really good time for home, family, and health matters. And again, maybe a bit of that tranquility, maybe some new things with relationships and your career as well. Again, involving those key areas I mentioned. So nice to have that trine with Uranus, but naturally with that, there might be some healing taking place, which is very natural. If you feel any wounds regarding those areas going into the weekend, just know it's internal, it's not external. And as you do the healing, I think you'll find that this weekend is very rejuvenating and very liberating in that sense. All right, Saturday and Sunday. So Sagittarius, as you can see, is a lot of key areas, but the way I would simplify this reading is that you are changing. At least it's a good time for you to initiate change. And this is internal and external change. Usually we know what it is, but I think it's hopefully what I've discussed in terms of the key areas might give you some more awareness about what this means for you personally, but making the changes nonetheless. And I think with all this 12th house activity, really, disciplining yourself here so you can, have more peace and tranquility in your life. Like meditation, for instance, it takes a lot of practice. And this is just one example. There's so many other things, but just one example, meditation, it takes so much discipline, so much practice to get to that point. But the more we meditate, what happens? We're much more accepting. We're much more tranquil, at peace, at ease. And it's that kind of thing, whether it's meditation or psychology, seeing a counselor or reading up on psychology yourself, or spiritual stuff. I mean, there's just so many things. So it's like that, and likely it's maybe what you've already been involved with. So you should know what that might mean for you. But in either case, yes, a great time to get that alone time and allow the energies to die down a bit. And then after this, of course, in about a month, the sun will be in your first house, Mercury will be in your first house, and that'll be a time of the year of more of the active pursuits. Okay. And let's not forget, Mars is in your second house, which is all about your values. So it is a good time in terms of motivation to be cultivating your material life, your material values, finances perhaps for some of you, your inner sense of self-worth, your self-reliance. All this can be very motivating in the process. All right, so Sagittarius, have a fantastic week. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.